Hi guys, welcome to another video from me, following on from my unboxing of the Prospero box set. This video we're going to be covering the assembly of the Custodian Guard, or the Legio Custodes, for the more old school viewers. So starting off then, always read the instructions. I know everyone goes on about it, and I know everyone thinks that they're maybe the most awesome modeler in the world and you can just go straight off the bat. But for me, always want to have a quick check what the options are, and just make sure that there's no surprises that come along in the build. The next stage then, have a look at the sprue, make sure you know where everything is as best possible. The numbering is a bit crazy, you know, component 1 is in the middle of the top left and component 2 is in the bottom right, just the way the moulding practice best fits the sprue itself. Camera is really struggling once again with the glossiness of the instruction manual there. Anyway, planning the build. So you want to have a look at what options you've got in the kit. Quite often there are several options, and if you're building a regular 40k type army, you might want to be looking at some of the more powerful options, or planning it based on your point spend or on your army list. For this though, you've got two options with the Custodian Guard. It's either the spear or the sword and shield. And then you have the Vexilla banner. So as I said, hunting the parts always sometimes a bit of a challenge, but cutting all the parts out with a set of clippers. And once you have all the components for the particular model, here I'm going straight for the character model. And here we start cleaning up all the flash and the parts you get left over when you've clipped them off the sprue, making sure there's no mould lines. For me, I prefer a scalpel. Games Workshop do a mould removal tool. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I sit there with a scalpel and I scrape and I cut and try and avoid slicing my fingers open. If you're of a younger age watching this, I'd probably go with the mould removal tool. It's less likely to cause you pain, but more experienced modelers with a bit more control may prefer a scalpel or an X-Acto blade, whichever you want to use. The blades do blunt down pretty quick, I found, so after every sort of 10 models or so, maybe a bit more than that, I tend to change blades. And they're pretty cheap, I get my blades off of eBay. This part was particularly fiddly. I'm not quite sure why it wasn't part of the shield itself in the original pressing, but it's a tiny little blob that you have to glue onto the shield. You can see I've got the instructions out in front of me now, just to make sure I'm not going to make any stupid mistakes. But there's not very many parts in this model, so it's pretty straightforward. Gluing the two leg parts together, making sure I have a good fit. You don't need to use a huge amount of glue. Plastic glue is all about the melting of the two surfaces to form a good bond. As you might notice, I'm not following the instructions exactly in order, so I'm tending to build this in small sub-components. So that's the legs, the head and the plume, the two halves of the body. Here I'm going with the sword and the arm. Here's that really annoying little bobble that goes on the shield there. And then there's a leg decoration plate. You notice I'm always test fitting before I glue as well, seeing if there's an obvious way that it goes or an obvious way that it mounts, making sure that it goes on nice and neatly. So gluing the torso to the legs. I test fitted again just to see if there was any movement in the twist of the hips, to see if you can get a more dynamic pose. And here again I'm trying to work out where the sword blade falls by his feet, which is a little bit more confusing than it appeared, to be honest. I mean, sometimes the blade sat in front of the toes, sometimes it sat to the left. You can see there, it's quite amusing. But yeah, eventually it sat just to the right of his feet there. It's making sure that the cloak goes in nice and doesn't extend beyond the base of the feet. That was a little bit of a funny fit I found, but there we go. Just looking at how the arm fit onto the shield there, and then glued the arm onto the body. But I've not glued the shield on to make the painting of the model a little bit easier. The shield on this is right in front of his torso, and then you won't be able to get a decent undercoat or paint behind the shield. So there's the completed models, all 5 done, and you can see that the 2 shield models I have left off the shields if they were in front of the torso, as I explained earlier, and I'll be painting those separate and then gluing them on. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you thought it was any good, please subscribe and drop a like on the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.